Welcome to the Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and this is where characters gather. And apparently where puppies gather. Hi, girls. Yeah, good morning. So, it is our wedding anniversary today. And stay tuned for a special guest at the end. And there's some new subscribers, so welcome. I hope you find reading material you enjoy. And enjoy your time here. Okay. It was not a great reading week. It wasn't a bad reading week. I only read one book and I have one DNF. I did a lot of book-related stuff this week, but that book-related stuff wasn't reading. I finally got fed up with my Kindle, and I sat down this weekend and began the laborious process of inputting all of my Kindle books, ARCs, purchases, etc., into a spreadsheet because Kindle management is atrocious. I also somehow magically remembered how to get into my Nook account, and I have books there I didn't know I had. So that's a good thing too, but those books now need to be added to the spreadsheet as well. I need to, put all the details into the spreadsheet, but a lot of the books are into the spreadsheet, and there was an obscene amount. So that took a lot of time, but it was time well spent. I don't regret it, and it needed to be done. Okay, so on to what I did and didn't read this week. So first up, the DNF for the week is Snowed In by Catherine Walsh. This was an arc from NetGalley. I haven't finished my coffee yet. And this comes out, I want to say, first week of December. Opens up great. It's a runaway bride in the prologue, and then suddenly it skips to 5 years. There's no immediate explanation as to why she's running away, and it opens up with some dude in a bar. It was irritating. I didn't care. The backstory that begins isn't immediately continued, and it's just a bunch of whiny nonsense, even though it's just a novella. Because it was a novella, it was going to end up being one of those instant love things, and I didn't have the patience for it, so DNF'd it. Okay, so what did I read this week? I read An Elegant Facade by Kristi and Hunter. This is the second book in the Hawthorne House series. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that at 35% in, I was wondering why I didn't DNF this book. So the book starts out, she's very upfront. It's going to be a rehash of the events of book one. And yeah, it certainly is a rehash of the events of book one. Slightly rewritten to fit, Georgina being the main character instead of her sister Melinda, who's the protagonist of the first book. But it is very obvious from the beginning that Georgina is illiterate and is most likely dyslexic, but she has chosen to perpetrate this great lie with the help of her maid, and she's been telling this lie since she was a very small child. It is truly annoying, and if I didn't want to read books 3 and 4 of this series, I would have DNF'd this book in the first third. I really, 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 really did not like the first third of this book. Didn't like the first 2/3 of this book. I kept pushing on because, like I said, I want to read books 3 and 4. I really loved book 1, which was A Noble Masquerade. So, and then the entire book changes at about 85% in. And that last 15% make up for the previous 85%. That is a lot of weight to carry in the last 15% of your book. And a discerning reader is most likely going to DNF your book well before that last 15%. Because this is book 2, I don't want to give too much away. But the male protagonist is a much stronger character. He is a much more mature character. And he is just... he doesn't play games, and I appreciate that. And Georgina is all about games because she thinks it's somehow protecting her and whatever all that nonsense is. So, if you want to read this series, understand that book 2 is incredibly weak, which I didn't expect, but there you go. It's incredibly weak in comparison to book 1. Incredibly weak. And that last 85% was fabulous. I even teared up a little bit at the end. But I will say, when I was on my Nook app this weekend, I did find the prequel to the Hawthorne House series as a purchased book on my Nook. So I have to go back and read that. I didn't realize I had it. That's the spreadsheet. Just, all my books need to go on the spreadsheet. So that sums up my reading for the week. I did start The Western Wind. I haven't finished it. I did some reading at Texas. I haven't finished what I'm supposed to. So Tammy has some reading to do. But that's, normal. And Dave's working from home this week. Not by choice, mind you. Our lovely car has decided that it needs a new engine. Don't get me started. So that's our anniversary gift to each other, a new engine. Hopefully it doesn't need a whole engine. It just needs parts. Time will tell. So, Grumpy Dave has arrived. Give him a little space. He's a little nervous. So you guys are watching this on Monday. We are filming on Sunday. Today is our anniversary. Or
tomorrow.
Monday is our anniversary. And we've been married how long?
I can say 19 years and also call marriage foul.
Yes, you can call marriage foul. Okay. You got that one in. You happy?
I'm not unhappy.
Hey, would you do it all over again?
Of course.
Even though you were non-compos mentis the day we got married?
Well, I was already crazy. Just because I was running 103 fever doesn't mean anything.
I'll grant you that. So, the nice people have been asking about you for months. Did you want to say anything in particular?
Don't do drugs. Read books.
And do you read books?
No. And I wouldn't ask the other question either. I don't do drugs, but it's nice to watch her not understand my answers that are coming.
I walked into that one. So I know you read as a kid. So what was your favorite book when you did read? Way back in, the days in which dirt was invented.
Well, there was a time machine manual. But the last page wasn't readable. So, that was a year wasted.
Okay, and on a serious note?
Oh, okay. This is for the government. So, I enjoyed reading Lord of the Rings, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxies, pretty much all the Dragonlance series, Dragon Rider series. I was really big into anything that was fantasy. That's because before I started reading fiction books, I spent 2 long summers in a small town in Oklahoma in the mythology section of the library, going through and reading essentially every book. While it was only about 5 to 6 bookcases, 6 to 8 feet tall, for an 8 to 10-year-old child to go through and do that, it got a lot of eyebrows. And then when I moved on to the science sections and so forth, that's when they call the feds.
Did not call the feds. And do you miss reading as an adult?
I read every day. Unfortunately, I read for a living, which is what a lot of adults have to do now. I read between 15 and 25,000 pages between emails, white papers, manuals within technology, and then, of course, running teams with diagrams, white papers, documentation, and so forth. I probably read as much as Tammy does on a daily basis, but none of it is enjoyable.
So what do you do for enjoyment? Besides torture me.
I buy my wife books.
You don't happen to play video games that have books related to them?
Well, yes, but so do you.
Yes. I have been known to play a video game or two. Thanks to you. That's all you're going to say?
She plays on Xbox.
So does he. So what are you currently playing?
I'm not. I'm here.
Okay, so if you weren't here, what would you currently be playing?
So currently the top contributors are Cyberpunk under the new patches, which is Cyberpunk genre is one of the least read fantasy and science fiction tropes for most readers. It borders on a lot of areas of common culture, such as the movie Johnny Mnemonic, which would have been one of the first cyberpunk books and a long time ago. The cyberpunk universe itself is based off of a tabletop gaming system. So if you're not familiar with that, think of D&D nerds sitting around a table rolling dice, things like that. The difference is that both D&D and cyberpunk, as well as other tabletop universes, they build frameworks. So this is what you would do as an author to write a book or a series of books to lay out the characters, the key players, the factions, and things like that. So imagine reading Dune, but there was no House Atreides. Well, you wouldn't be able to do that. But you could read Dune without Paul if you then, pretended you were Paul in an environment. And that's what a video game does that's crafted well, or a tabletop gaming experience. You're building the narrative, the story, the first person or second or third person in real time, generally with people either role-playing or some people will prepare some scripts ahead of time to fill in gaps and so forth. So gaming and reading, especially within high fantasy, science fiction, technology, steampunk, and cyberpunk, are very close related, but both camps tend to scowl at each other. Gamers generally are readers, but in general, readers are not gamers, and they're missing out on a big portion of what it is to be imaginative.
I can agree with that. So we recently moved to Texas a couple years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Are you glad you moved home?
I moved back to Texas.
Are you glad?
Yes.
What was the best thing about moving back to Texas?
Not being near New York.
Okay, other than that, for which we can fully agree.
So these are things that are put into absolutes that don't really work for me. I moved back to Texas, and literally back to Texas. I work for a technology firm out of Austin, Texas. I do technology, but I do it in the framing of retail. I feed people for a living. And when we were looking at houses and so forth, already near the area, housing was expensive, as we know. It's gone crazy, especially in like Austin. And so we decided to move south, and we were going further and further south. So finally, I wound up moving 2.5 miles from my childhood home. It was very familiar. It was nice to be back, but there's a lot of positives and negatives. I can live anywhere. That's the best way of putting it. Basically,
No, he can't. He has to live where I want to live. And I have a hard line. And Tammy does not ever again want to live east of the Mississippi River.
And hence my answer earlier. What do you do for happiness? I buy my wife books.
So when we moved back to Texas, we got chickens.
A year in.
A year in? Yeah.
A little over a year.
A little over a year in, we got chickens. And we got our first batch of chickens at our local Tractor Supply. There were 4 of them. Brought them home. Got them happy and healthy from, wee little chicks and moved them out back. And while we were at Tractor Supply, Dave bought me the infamous chicken mug, which you guys have all seen and all have been asking for. But we only bought one. Not sure why we only bought one, but we only bought one.
There was only one on the shelf.
Was that why?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we only had one. This was July of last year? Yeah, July of last year.
Sounds right.
And the city where we live, your chickens have to all be hens so that you are kind to your neighbors when the rooster does roostery things.
No, a bureaucrat has stated that you can't have roosters, and they do it because they are afraid of people setting up rooster competition events so we don't get demonetized here.
That's part of it. So we ended up, unfortunately, with 4 roosters. And we had to... I didn't have to. Dave had to dispatch 4 roosters. It was incredibly sad. So this was, I want to say, late September.
End of the summer, we had to put the 4 cockerels down because they were not endorsed by our city, and they would have required us to rehome them, which you just simply can't do. So we had to cull them.
So fast forward a couple months. My parents are coming for Thanksgiving last year. Our anniversary is at the end of October, and we generally don't do anniversary gifts. If either of us want something, we're pretty good about getting it for the other as the course of the year goes on. And I tried to get him another chicken mug because he was always trying to use mine. And there were no chicken mugs. Our local Tractor Supply had none. The website had none. Hello, Miss Felicity. And so I found some in Arizona where my parents are. And my parents drove all over the Phoenix area to buy 3 chicken mugs. And they drove them cross country for his anniversary gift last year. And what did your coworker say?
They thought it was one of the most romantic things ever, because it's one of those things. You've been married, it's not the big, 25, it's not the big 50, you're not buying a vacation to Alaska or whatever else, but to do something that we both were into at the time that wasn't work related, wasn't like YouTube related or gaming related or whatever else, and simply tie it all together and then get a full set of mugs, and then her getting her family, it was multiple family people, wasn't it? I think your aunt and uncle were in
and
there
uncle
too.
got in it too.
And then part of the reason they were able to bring, 6 chicken mugs and so forth is they didn't fly. They drove. Probably the last time they're going to drive cross country to see family and stuff. And they also brought us our original wedding dishes. So we were expecting the wedding dishes, and then the chicken mugs were hidden amongst them, and they were a very pleasant surprise.
So that is the story of the chicken mug. I know you guys have all been asking, so now you know. It's his daily mug of love. Even on days in which he finds it difficult to love me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we now have 5 chickens. They were baby chicks they were born the 29th of November last year. We originally had 7, we're down to 5. One was a rooster. It's inevitable, even if you order from a hatchery, a straight run of females, there is no guarantee. So we had to cull him. He was beautiful. And we lost one this summer to a predator. So we have 5 left. They're happy. They're healthy. They run around the backyard with the dogs all the time. And much to Pickle's dismay, they get to run free and he doesn't. So I think we're going to let him go so I can go make him breakfast.
But you didn't want to point out that Pickle stays in a cage, and then I'm the only other male, and I live in a house full of nothing but females, and a yard with nothing but females. Pickles doesn't live in a cage. He's in a fortress.
And aren't you blessed by all the females who deliver you butt nuggets and make you breakfast?
Well, yes, I do like an egg.
Yes, you do. You do like an egg. Is there anything else?
Send beer.
And he's probably not showing up in Bookmas videos.
Bookmas? Why?
Well, because you'd have to sit down and do this again and think of something creative to do.
If Seinfeld can do Festivus, I could do something.
Okay, we'll take that as challenge accepted. He'll show up sometime in December. And back to regularly scheduled programming. Yeah, he has something to say. What are you going to say?
Yeah, it's fine.
No, go ahead.
No.
Oh, no, I'm in trouble. I know that smirk.
Well, it's either challenge accepted or half-assery.
That could be the same thing. Okay, I'm going to go make breakfast. Say goodnight. Goodbye to the nice people.
Good night. Good Lord. You don't know the date. You don't know the time.
Hey,
What's in your coffee?
I'm older than you. I'm claiming senioritis. You rub the cradle.
Wait, no. You even got that backwards.
Oh my gosh, I did. Okay, apparently I need more coffee. Please don't commit me
Bye,
to
everybody.
a
I'm going to go have her tested.
That is what I read last week. Did you read something better? Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.